Hello, team, and welcome to another episode of the Scrum Call. This is the fourth episode, and while we may not have covered a lot of things yet, but I've tried to give time to have the basics in place, right? However, if you still feel that there are things that can be improved, or there are topics that you want me to cover, I would love to hear you. And the description has the email, even the social media handles that you can reach out to me. So feel free to check that out. All right, so moving on. In the previous Scrum Call, we covered the fundamentals of waterfall. We tried to understand what is waterfall and how does Agile sort of fill in the gaps. How does Agile address the shortcomings of waterfall? In this episode, we will now start our journey with understanding Agile. So what better way to understand what the word means? What does Agile mean? Well, if you do a quick Google search, Agile means the ability to move faster, quicker, right? And that's the whole idea. Quickness is the name of the game because the market turns very quickly. Technology progresses very quickly in today's time. We don't have time to sit and think and then we'll do. No. If you have to do something, you have to do it now. Now is the time. If you're thinking, you're already late. Try, fail, learn, proceed. All right? Now, with that, there is something very fundamental about Agile that we need to understand before we move or before we even start talking about what Agile is all about. I will be referring to agilemanifesto.org. This is a very important website. It's a fundamental website of Agile. It's a very simple website as well. And when you open it, the first thing you will see is the Agile values. And that is what we will be covering in today's episode. Now, right at the onset, while Agile says that yes, certain things are important, it is recommending us to consider a few other things over and above and say, let's focus on these a little more. What I mean to say is, the four values outlines a left-hand side and a right-hand side set of topics. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So on the left-hand side, we have individuals and interactions, and on the right-hand side, we have processes and tools. Now, Agile says, while we do see the value on the items on the right hand side, we value the items on the left hand side even more. Now in this particular Agile value, the idea is of ensuring that there is open and transparent communication between individuals. They should interact more to get things done, rather than depend on processes and tools to get things done. While no doubt process and tools are important, but sometimes they tend to just slow down things a little. And if there is an opportunity to go past it or to circumvent that or to just have people talk to each other rather than wait for their manager to intervene, why doesn't a developer just walk up to another developer from another team and just talk things out? Maybe then follow it up with a mail. Probably communication is the key here. All right, now next, working software over comprehensive documentation. Now, this is really interesting. You see, traditionally, software development involved a heavy aspect of documentation. Business requirement document, your architectural diagrams, then cataloging all the different kind of errors, and then classifying them into various other things. There was a lot of documentation, a lot of developers' time went into documenting all kinds of things. Agile says that yes, documentation is important, but do we really need to document so much? Can we streamline it? Can we make it simpler? Can we prioritize it? And focus more on developing software that actually works? Because quite frankly, your customer is not going to be impressed by the documentation you've done for a software that doesn't work, right? They would rather have a working software first than anything else. So what's the priority here? Customer delight, and the customer will be delighted by what they are paying for. They are paying for the software. Documentation is part of it. It's secondary. While again I'm saying it's not useless. It is important, but we need to think more about how do we churn out working software. All right, next, customer collaboration over contract negotiation. True, contract negotiation is important, but we should ensure that we do not sort of alienate a customer just because we have a certain contract with them and we have very rigid terms. They are important, no doubt, but at the end of the day, who is going to be using your software? It is your customer who's going to be using the software. Would it not make sense to have customer as part of your team or as a partner that is kept in constant loop and is also involved in some of the discussions? Instead of keeping them at bay and then surprising them with some software which they may or may not like or may have a ton of feedback for, it makes more sense to collaborate with the customer more closely, to the point where the customer, though not necessarily having a say or being deeply involved in how to write the code or anything, but at least is in loop with the progress more frequently, so that they can literally see the software develop right in front of their eyes. And as it develops, and anyone can vouch for this, requirements suddenly change. The customer might realize, oh, if this can be done, then maybe that could also be done, right? And that's where scope changes, right? That is bound to happen, but Agile also accepts that, right? At the end of the day, software is developed not for the developer, but for a customer. Collaborate with the customer, take them as a partner, and then see how delighted they would be by seeing a software that is tailor-made for them, addressing their requirements. You would even be surprised that they would actually be able to empathize with you, because many times customers do not know what the nitty-gritties are. But if you take them as a partner, they would also empathize with you and realize that not everything is possible. Software development is not an Aladdin's lamp where you just wish for something and it happens, right? There is a lot of effort, time, and money that goes into it. And that's where a customer collaboration helps, because they too would realize what's really possible and what's not. The last Agile value, responding to change over following a plan. Now guys, how many times does it ever happen, personally or professionally, that you plan something out and it works to the T? If you say it has ever happened, you're either too lucky or you're a good liar. Guys, yes, having a plan is important. If you don't plan, you don't really, factor in the variables. But then again, not being fluid with that is a big pitfall. Let me give you an example. Now, let's say, camera technologies. At one point of time, DSLRs were, the pinnacle of photographic equipment in the hands of a consumer. Along came mirrorless. Initially, people were like, no, it's too limited, and people were dishing it out like, won't make sense. There were a few who believed in it, and today the DSLR is almost going out the way, if not already has gone out the way, and we have mirrorless cameras that are ruling the roost. I'm filming this on a mirrorless camera, by the way. So with the change in technology, if we keep our plans so rigid that when a change comes along, we are not able to adapt to it, how will we, survive? This was a slightly gradual change, but let's say something very radical. How would you adapt to that if your plan does not even factor in that uncertainty? So responding to change is more important. That is what keeps the essence of Agile in it. And like I mentioned earlier, Agile means moving quickly. If you have a rigid plan, forget about moving quickly. You will be stuck at where you are, and you will have to go back to the drawing board. By that time, your competitors have already raced past, and you have pretty much lost the race. So folks, those were the 4 Agile values. I'll be doing another episode where I will be talking about the 12 principles of Agile, which is really important and very interesting. But nevertheless, as a closing note, while Agile values the points on the right, it values the points on the left a little more. Check out agilemanifesto.org to refer to what I was just going through. write to me if you have any doubts. I would love to answer your questions. If you feel I can improve this, make it even better, then I would love to hear from you on that as well. So with that, this is Shishir signing off. Thank you.